Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Val Wilson and I'm one of the many volunteers that help create programming at our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 12, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. So welcome to the Neepawa Banner Press for October the 2nd, 2020. So the headline is One Last Hurrah for Summer. And this was one last summer moment as we try to adapt to the shift into autumn. The rapid change of leaves from green to shades of yellow, red, and orange made for scenery that popped while boating at Clear Lake. The boater was fishing for walleye. Photo by George Dinsdale. And thank you, George, for including us in your photography. So we'll just start at the front and I'll work my way through at the leisure of the stories. So we have COVID-19 exposure in Carberry. The town of Carberry has been warned about potential COVID-19 exposure at the community's elementary and high schools. On Friday, September 25th, Prairie Mountain Health sent a letter to parents and guardians informing them of a confirmed case of COVID-19 on a school bus on Monday, September 21st. Beautiful Plains School Division Superintendent Jason Young confirmed that the individual was a student who attended Carberry Collegiate, but noted that the case was not contracted at the school. Precautions have been installed. Due to concerns related to possible exposure at R.J. Waugh Elementary School at Carberry Collegiate, the schools immediately closed off all areas used by the infected person that day. Those sections of the building have since been cleaned and disinfected. The bus on which the student was transported was also disinfected. Young added that Beautiful Plains School Division is working closely with public health officials, Carberry School staff and families following all recommendations from the Public Health and Manitoba Education. Public Health advised the division that all grade 7 students at Carberry Collegiate will be transitioned to remote learning as of September 28th. For up to 2 weeks from the date of exposure. Young noted that this may be lengthened or shortened as the investigation continues. Carrying on in the beginning of the paper, we have a call for cards. Neepawa resident hopes to make friend's 100th birthday special. By Casper Warehan, Neepawa Banner Press. It's not every day that you get to be 100 years old, and that's one of the reasons Alfred Newton's close friend and caregiver wants to make his coming birthday extra special. The caregiver has extended an invitation to anyone who would like to send him a birthday card. We really want to make the day special, said the caregiver. We wish him well and God's blessing to him. A little bit about Alfred. Alfred was born in 1920. He is a World War II veteran. He signed up to join the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1943 and trained as a gunner on the Liberator bombers. Newton graduated from bombing and gunnery school at RCAF Station McDonald near Portage la Prairie. Afterwards, he was posted with the 357th Squadron at Jeshore, India in early 1945. It was a special duty squadron which flew Liberators and Dakotas to drop both men and supplies behind enemy lines. Most of his flights mid-year took place in eastern Burma, where Japanese Axis forces had at one point completely taken over. Newton was able to return safely home to Canada in February of 1946. If any readers of the Banner Press would like to send Newton a card for his birthday on October 20th, 2020, do feel free to do so via the following address. Alfred Newton, Alfred Newton, P.O. Box 121, Neepawa, Manitoba, R0J1H0. And you know, whether he gets these cards for October 20th, November 20th, or even into the new year, if you send a card, I'm sure it will make his day. So we had a summer shopping spree, and we have a declared winner. Mervyn Russell of Neepawa receives his prizes at a proper social distance after having his name pulled from a large number of entries local participating businesses received over the past few weeks. Mervyn Russell of Neepawa is the lucky winner of the Neepawa Banner and Press Summer Shopping Spree Contest. Russell received his prizes from the Banner Press publisher, Ken Waddell. 15 Neepawa stores and restaurants participated in the contest over the last 8 weeks as part of late summer promo. The stores and restaurants each donated a $50 gift certificate, which made for a grand total of $750 worth of certificates for the winner. The draw bags were gathered and the thousands of entries were dropped into the draw tub by the Banner Press staff, Kira Patterson and Diane Warner. Staff member Casper Warehand pulled the lucky winner's ticket. The Neepawa Banner and Press thanks all the 15 participating merchants and customers for supporting the summer shopping spree. Shopping in your home region helps us all. And then we have special thanks to the summer shopping spree participating merchants. The Bamboo Garden, Boston Pizza, Neepawa Gladstone Co-op, Roder's Bakery, Dairy Queen, Orv's Appliance, Your Dollar Store with More, Neepawa Pharmacy, Harris Pharmacy, Herbs for Health, Lee's Village Restaurant, Home Hardware, It's Time, Farmery Estate Brewery, and Giant Tiger. Thank you all for participating and entering. Obviously, I didn't get the call, so now we're going to read into the editorial page and its perspectives. A Champion, the Truth, right in the center by Ken Waddell. This year's celebration of National Newspapers Week is aptly titled Champion the Truth. The value of newspapers and championing the truth has never been more important to Canada and North America. The newspapers is the bedrock of our society's eternal quest for facts and truth. Without news reporters that have been supported by advertising, by the way, many very important stories would go untold. People can express their love for radio, TV, the internet, but the majority of the news stories that populate the latter three type of media originate from a newspaper. It might be a small town 8 or 12 page weekly paper or a 100-page Metro daily, but most of the news we hear today comes originally from a newspaper. It's a standing joke that the staff in a big city radio and TV station newsrooms gather around the morning paper to see what their stories will be that day. Without reporters and advertisers supporting them, there would be very little news. Newspapers are usually fairly reliable, and the closer the local ownership, the more reliable it becomes. There is an accountability factor in communities, especially if the paper is locally owned. It is a model we have tried hard to follow. It is no coincidence that of the 12 papers that have closed in the past year in Manitoba, all were owned by large corporations, and most of them with a head office hundreds of miles away from the town where the paper was published. Local ownership brings accountability to the scene at a far higher rate than large corporations can usually deliver. There is another accountability factor to newspapers, and that's if it's in print, it needs to have a name attached to it. Anonymity and newspapers don't make good partnership. Columns have to have known authors. Stories have to have as well. Letters to the editor need to be signed. A number of years ago, papers started to run a sound off page where anonymous people could spout off about anything that came to mind. It's still being allowed by a few newspapers, and personally, I think they are nuts to do so. Sometime later, the idea of internet blogs came along, and writers would put out news and opinions and let other people weigh in anonymously on the topic of the day. A very good Brandon writer, Curtis Brown, who toiled at one time for the Brandon Sun, had an excellent run with his blog. I wrote to Curtis and advised him of the danger of allowing anonymous comments. You wouldn't allow in a letter to the editor in the paper, so why would you even consider it on the internet? He didn't agree until much later when the comments slipped so far from credibility that he stopped. The Winnipeg Free Press and its sister paper, the Brandon Sun, run a lot of stories on their websites. They used to allow anonymous comments, but that didn't work out well, so they started to monitor the comments. That was a poor use of time and money, and I told them so, but they persisted. When they got some stories that were open to racist comments, no amount of monitoring could curtail the filthy flood, so they eventually canned their comment section. Good riddance, I say. If an opinion is worth expressing, it needs to have a name attached to it. Some people don't have enough confidence or courage of their convictions to state their views in an definable public manner. Perhaps then it shouldn't be said. There may be an odd exception, such as that when speaking out would endanger their job. Perhaps their objection is of a legal or moral nature. If that is the case, they need to be talking to the police, not making anonymous comments. Newspapers need to be celebrated every week. If a community still has a newspaper, they need to do everything they can do to keep it viable. Without the newspaper, local communities can easily lose control of accountability for councils and school boards. The local paper carries news and ads you will never see on big TV or in big city papers or here on the city radio. Championing the truth in an accountable manner is the bedrock of our communities, and the local newspapers do it well. Disclaimer. The writer serves as a volunteer chair at the Manitoba Community Newspapers Association. The views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the MCNA board or banners and press staff. And then we'll read on to Homebodies by Rita Friesen, another point of view. Great pleasure in little things. She herself had the gift, than which there is none more inevitable of finding great pleasure in little things. L.M. Montgomery, Mistress Pat, 1935. When I come across a quote that says perfectly what I feel and would like to express, I am quietly elated. This quote spoke to me for more than one level. It has become a custom to speak with two of my sisters on a weekly basis. FaceTime. We delve into our shared past, reviewing memories, getting to know each other better as adults. Okay, old ladies, and exploring new thoughts and concepts. Sister, the elder, has been asked by her son what she considered her gifts. Quick of wit, she asked if the ability to get lost would be considered. Quick of wit, she asked if the ability to get lost could be considered a gift. My guess is that it could be, if you had the time and energy to embrace new and unexpected places. I stand in awe of authors and artists, creative folks whose work enhances so many others' lives. Those with the ability to see the ordinary and transform it into the universal language. Oh, I know there are gifts that have been entrusted to my keeping. It is simply difficult for me to acknowledge them. Something about an early culture that felt praise for deeds or words would be head swelling. Humbleness misunderstood as a hurrah heap humble, not to be healthy humble. So here, L.M. Montgomery named my gift. I practiced my gift this week, walking without my dogs. I had the time to stop and watch the beavers. They are big, healthy creatures. The ones I watched just before sunset were eating vicariously before beginning their nocturnal work of dam building. More than one brown swimmer in the river beside me. I paused to watch the one peeling the bark from a slender willow stalk. Sitting in a raised spot, still in the river, it ate that bark like I eat corn on the cob, truly moving it from one end to the other, clearing all bark as the stalk progressed from left to right, the paws working like my hands. And when the good was done, the beaver discarded the branch as I would a corn and reached for another. An older, more cautious beaver had spotted me, watched me for a moment, and then, with a great splashing slap of the tail, disappeared. I wondered if the one who remained fixated on the meal was younger and didn't care about danger. Yikes, like some of the young people in this COVID crisis. Or if it had assessed me as a non-threatening. Bottom line, I am thankful it stayed, for I witnessed a non-violent nature of things. Finding great pleasure in little things, watching my great-grands make grands become parents, good parents. The miracle of small, not always clean, hand reaching for yours for comfort and assurance. A gift. The colors of this autumn, different from any other autumn and yet the same. The strident colors of the vines ascending the support of trees. The golds, oranges, browns, and greens, a kaleidoscope of hues on the hills. The warmth and comfort of my home, the support of family and friends. Great pleasure in little things. And then we have Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine, the growing season. It's the fall season, but we're going to read the growing season. From early spring to late fall each year, an unwritten timeline guided life on the family farm. There was a time for everything: spring cultivation, seeding, cleaning corrals, making hay, harvesting, baling, straw, and fall cultivation. Our schedule was dictated by the growing season of the wheat, oats, barley we sowed each year. My mom had a schedule of her own. There was a specific time to plant the garden, set out her gladiolus bulbs, buy cases of fruit to turn into fall preserves or jam, or harvest the produce from the garden. Her schedule closely adhered to the growing season of the seeds she planted each spring and the availability of fresh fruit from BC. Everything that grew on our farm, whether wild or domestic, had its own unique growing season. Leaf lettuce, for example, could be cut after a few weeks. The same applied to radishes. Wheat took around 100 days to mature, barley and oats not as long. We did our spring work, planted our seeds, and then waited for the seeds to sprout, grow to mature, and produce a harvest. Every farmer knows that you never reap a harvest the day after the seed is sown. The harvest comes at the end of the growing season. The same principle applies to preparing a delicious meal. Some meals, like soup and a grilled cheese sandwich, can be prepared in around 15 minutes. But most meals take much longer. Holiday dinners can take several hours, longer in addition to the meat and vegetables. The cook is also baking dinner rolls, preparing appetizers, crafting those delicious desserts that you can't get enough of. But there's no such thing as an instant meal. Good food always takes time to prepare. Then, as every parent knows, you never expect your children to act like adults until they have grown to adulthood. The daily chores you give them are based on their level of maturity. As they learn more and can do more, they can be given more responsibilities, so that, in due season, they will be ready to leave home, set up homes of their own, and function as responsible, contributing members of society. Finally, this principle applies to our words and deeds. Sometimes the consequences of an appropriate word or deed are felt immediately. At other times, it can be many years before inappropriate actions are uncovered. The full extent of damage done by them is revealed, and those responsible for inflicting the pain are identified and punished. Likewise, we do not always see the full impact of our good deeds. We may think they will help one or two people, But if those people, thanks to the goodness we do for them, each help to others and those help the same, our single act of kindness has made a difference in the lives of at least 14 people, and the number will keep growing as additional good deeds are done. That is why St. Paul urged the Galatians to keep on doing good deeds for others, even though they never saw any positive response from those who which good deeds were done. Don't grow weary while doing what is right, he wrote. We will reap at harvest time if we do not give up. So then, whenever we have an opportunity, let us work for the good of all. Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 to 10. There is much wisdom in those words, wisdom we should all take to heart, especially in these challenging days. And then we have an observation by Addie Oberlein. Another hymn that impresses me much this week is There'll Be Peace in the Valley for Me by Thomas A. Dorsey. Since I moved to the prairies, I have always been astonished when we would be on the top of a hill and see the valley in front of us. It was always such a peaceful view. There are many hills and valleys on the prairies, and just before the time Hitler sent his chariots into Western Europe in the late 30s, Dorsey was traveling on a train and saw sheep, horses, and cows grazing together in a valley. It seemed too peaceful. He wondered what was wrong with the mankind and why they could not live in peace. He later wrote this hymn. Sometimes we feel tired and wearied, but we must wait till the Lord calls us away. Then there will be no sadness, no sorrow, nor trouble. There will be peace in the valley for me. Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 13 and 14, but now in Christ Jesus, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Christ, for he is our peace and our Savior. And we have a thumbs up, thumbs down this week in the paper. And the first one is a thumbs up to a big thumbs up to the board members at the Neepawa Drop-In Center for getting the drop-in open on October 5th. Our 55-plus community needs this recreation open even more in this COVID world. Dan Free, Neepawa, Manitoba. And then we have another thumbs up. A thumbs up to Cody Chakowski and his crew for their impeccable workmanship on replacing the shingles on our garage. Not only that, but hands up to Cody for your integrity. He made the invoice 2 bundles of shingles less than the original quote. Goes to show there are honest people around. Thanks, Ernie Gawaziak, Neepawa, Manitoba. I'm going to carry on with, let's see, we have Out of Helen's Kitchen, Manitoba's Boundaries. When Manitoba was established as a province in 1870, it was slightly larger than the Red River Valley, about 1/18 of what it is today, and the shape of a postage stamp, thus the nickname, the Postage Stamp Province. The southern boundary was the U.S. border, and the north boundary ran east and west in a line just north of Toulon, but south of Gimli. The western boundary ran north and south in a line through Crystal City, Bruxelles, Sydney, and Keys, just west of Gladstone. The eastern boundary was about halfway between Winnipeg and the current border. The eastern boundary was hotly disputed for many years. In 1878, Prime Minister Macdonald disallowed the Board of Arbitration's decision to set the Ontario border at the Lake of the Woods and introduced the Manitoba Boundary Extension Act of 1881. Manitoba was now to be extended all the way to Thunder Bay. In explaining his decision, Macdonald said, "We cannot afford to give it to Ontario because the lands would belong to Ontario. Keeping it as a portion of Manitoba, the lands belong to the Dominion." This decision was because Manitoba had no control over their natural resources. The Manitoba Boundary Extension Act gave Manitoba about 5 times as much land as in the original province. Manitoba then had grown to the west, to the north, and to the east. The Act did not give Manitoba land further than the 53rd parallel, which meant that the paw went outside the northern boundary. The east boundary was still in dispute and finally settled in 1889 in Ontario's favour. This northern boundary never was agreeable with Manitobans and became intolerable when Saskatchewan and Alberta became provinces and received the 60th latitude as their northern border. As they negotiated with Laurier's Liberal government in Ottawa, it was made clear that the two provinces were awarded this extension north because they were Liberal. Manitoba's Premier Roblin was undeterred, and he and his government began political wranglings with Laurier's government. Roblin played an important role in the 1911 federal election to help defeat Prime Minister Laurier and put the Robert Borden Conservatives in power. The Conservatives offered fair boundaries and the Liberals low tariffs. Roblin believed the boundaries would remain the same, but the tariffs could easily change in time. Laurier could have given Manitoba the same northern boundary that he had given to the other two provinces. That would have cost him nothing. But in the end, it cost him the election. In 1912, the northern boundary that Borden promised to extend came to fruition, and its present location, the 60th parallel. Manitoba acquired 180,000 miles of bush and tundra, equal to the other provinces, the northern seaport of Churchill, and an unforetold wealth for the new Manitoba. The wealth came in the opening of mines, smelters, several hydroelectric developments, pulp, paper, new forestry complexes, new northern fisheries, and new towns. A new frontier had emerged that was very different to the wheat farming done elsewhere in Manitoba. What a bonus for Manitoba in the province's economic history. The final chapter in the dilemma would not come about until 1930, when the federal government would grant Manitoba control over its own public lands and natural resources. Manitoba was finally equal with its peers. Apples are not just crunchy, sweet, and satisfying eaten as is. They make wonderful desserts, and this cake is no exception. It is packed with fresh apples and can be eaten with a drizzle of sweet frosting or served as a warm caramel sauce. And there is if you've got a pen and paper and you want to write this down, it's called the spicy apple cake. The cake: 1/2 cup room temperature butter, 1 cup brown sugar, 2 teaspoons vanilla, 2 eggs, 2 cups flour, 1 1/2 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1 teaspoon nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon cloves, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 5 cups diced peeled apples, 1/2 cup walnuts or pecans if desired. You cream the butter, stir in the sugar and vanilla. Add the eggs and mix well. In another bowl, add the flour, spices, salt, baking soda, and mix together. Add the dry ingredients to the batter mix, fold in the apples and walnuts, and mix until evenly combined. Pour your batter into 9 by 13 inch greased pan and bake at 350, 40 to 45 minutes, or until top is lightly browned and springs back when lightly touched. Then we put a glaze on. Your glaze is 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of white sugar, 3 tablespoons of cream, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. In a saucepan over medium heat, combine all of the glazed ingredients. Bring to a boil and allow the mixture to boil for 1 minute. Let cool slightly and spoon the glaze over the warm cake. And if you really have a notion for a little bit on the sweet side, you can add some hot caramel sauce, which is 1 cup brown sugar, 1/4 cup butter, 1/2 cup cream, and 1 teaspoon of caramel flavor. So if you combine the brown sugar and the butter and you cook over medium heat until the butter is melted, gradually add the cream. Bring to a slow boil over medium heat, stirring constantly. Remove from heat and add the flavor. Serve over slices of the cake. Well, I think I'm going to go home and start baking. We have the new school year and we have new challenges for 2020 by the Neepawa Banner Press correspondent, Kira Patterson. Every new school year comes with changes, but this year has come with a few more than usual. With COVID-19 restrictions in place, school divisions have been making sure their schools are as safe as possible for students to be back in classrooms. Homeschooling options have been explored. Despite all the precautions, it appears some parents are still hesitant to send their kids back to school. Jason Young, superintendent of Beautiful Plains School Division, which covers the schools in Neepawa, Carberry, Brookdale, Eden, and several colonies, stated that they had 51 students who had previously attended or were registered to attend school in division who have now started homeschooling instead. That fact reflects the slight drop in enrollment at Beautiful Plains School Division compared to the end of last year. Young noted that at this time last year, enrollment was 1,980, finishing off the school year with 2,056. This year, enrollment is currently at 1,989. At Turtle River School Division, which has schools in Alonza, Laurier, Glenella, St. Rose, McCreary, Kelwood, and 2 colonies, Superintendent Beth Seismico noted that their enrollment is down slightly from last year as well. A few students and families have chosen the homeschooling option, making up approximately 5 to 9% of enrollment numbers. Some learning remotely. While some are trying homeschooling on their own, there are a few students who are still enrolled with school divisions but are learning from home due to the medical concerns. Throughout Beautiful Plains School Division, Young stated that they have 12 students who have medical notes requiring them to learn remotely, while the rest of the students are in class. At Turtle River School Division, Seismico noted that they are fortunate they only have 1 student learning remotely. As for what the feeling has been within the schools this year, Young explained that Beautiful Plains School Division schools, the atmosphere has been fairly positive. Our staff are excited to have our students back in the school and to be interacting in person on a daily basis. Overall, our parents and students continue to be supportive of our schools, and the general sense is that the atmosphere, although different than normal, is positive and filled with excitement, she said. Seismico said that at Turtle River School Division, the students missed going to their classes, seeing friends and teachers, and are happy to be back now. She added that parents are happy to have their kids back to some normality and have been very supportive throughout the learning at home process as well. Remote learning works, but it is definitely not the preferred option for anyone, she said. Continued on page 14. Well, wherever it's continued, it's not here. Sorry. Continued on page 14. Just a little glitch. Nope, not there. And not there. Try 15. Oh, it's on page 18, so we found it. I guess I would have known that if I had looked over the paper before I started reading, eh? Continued from page 6. New school rules seem to be going over relatively well with both staff and students. Young shared that for the most part, the students at Beautiful Plains School Division schools have been doing pretty well with the new rules in place. Our students and families continue to be extremely cooperative in the utilization of masks. He expressed our students continue to adapt to this new reality of being further apart. We are seeing that the greatest need for awareness are at times when transitions are occurring as to be expected. These would be times such as the beginning and end of the school day, as well as any time when transitions occur within the day. This is somewhat alleviated by staggering drop-offs, pickups, recess blocks, lunch hours, and the class transition times, Young explained. Seismico stated that at Turtle River School Division, school staff found it challenging at first to be reminding students to keep their masks on. But after that, students get it and are fine with wearing a mask. She added that the students are also reminding each other of the rules if they forget, and they're starting to look at it as part of the new normal. Everyone has been very resilient and has adapted to the public health conditions. School division administration has been hard at work making sure to prepare for any situation that comes. Turtle River School Division is having a lot of meetings to get things sorted. Change implementation is difficult in a normal year, but with continuing changes, it has made it challenging at times for everyone, Seismico expressed. We have a small but strong team and are adaptable. We work very well and can pivot when needed to support schools and students. We are currently in a good place, she added. Our division staff, our board of trustees, in collaboration with the entire divisional team, continue to work extremely hard to plan for all the potential scenarios as we work through this changing landscape. Young said, Beautiful Plains School Division, our staff have stayed very true to doing what we feel is best for our kids, not what is the easiest to implement. Young concluded, we have faced infinite challenges as an educational system and as communities, but the one thing we have learned is that patience, collaboration, creativity, and working together, we can also find infinite solutions. So we also have a picture on this page up in the corner here, and it is of nobody. We don't have any names, so I'm not going to give you any names, but it is the 20th draw of the Beautiful Plains Community Foundation. 25 Days in Giving took place Friday, September 25th at the foundation office. The winner this time was a Neepawa Lions Club with a prize amount of $500 towards their projects. So we have a here and there out of Carberry, North Cypress, Langford. And it is by Gladwin Scott from the Neepawa Banner Press. Carberry Golf Club champions were decided on September the 19th. The men's club title was claimed by Joel Barron. In the women's category, Aaron Gesner won top prize. The senior men's championship was won by Tony Vasey, and the senior women's title went to Tammy Murray. In the junior division, Dawson Smart was victorious. The 2020 CGSB lottery took place at the Glenborough Golf and Country Club September 26th. $40 tickets were sold by Carberry, Glenborough, Souris, and Boissevain golf clubs, which entitled the golf holder to 18 holes of golf at each club's plus Pleasant Value course. Winners of the $10,000 grand prize were Jeremy Turcott, Brandon. Rise Fingus, Inglis, won the second prize of $5,000. The 5 recipients of the $1,000 were Brent Cullen from Wawanesa, Daryl Forsyth, Brandon, Tom Adriansen from Carberry, Bruce Bear from Wawanesa, and Lee Friesen from Brandon. This event is a big fundraiser, and the Carberry Golf Club made approximately $20,000 on the lottery this year. Corey Forbes of Glenborough, co-chairman of the Westman High School Hockey League and the 19-year-old head coach of the Wildcats, Carberry, Glenborough, and Balder, stated that the Westman High School Hockey League will have its 2020 organizational meeting in Hamiota Tuesday, September 29th. More than 24 Winnipeg boys high school hockey teams are set to play, and one girls' league is also booked to start. Pembina Trails, Seven Oaks, St. James, and Division Solitaire, Franco-Manitoban, have approved a return to play once Hockey Manitoba goes ahead with Phase 3. The Canadian-U.S. border has been closed for another month until October 21st, except for essential workers to help contain the coronavirus. With the demise of the weekly newspapers in Deloraine, Melita, Souris, and Reston, Boissevain, recorder-publisher Lorraine Houston has invited the first three communities to join their weekly paper and would also cover Reston if they don't get coverage from the Verdun Empire. The Recorder will start this next month and will definitely expand their current subscriber base of 1,200. Judy Wells, former Deloraine editor with about 300 paid subscriptions, has accepted an offer to report from the new enlarged weekly. Coronavirus has forced two Canadian political party leaders to quarantine for 14 days. Aaron O'Toole, the newly elected Conservative leader, and Yves Franco-Blanchard, leader of the Bloc Québécois. Jostin Patterson Construction of Brandon is busy replacing the ceiling tiles and flooring of the local arena waiting area. The viewing area may be renovated depending on the fire commissioner's office. The collegiate gymnasium roof and outside walls also received some renovations this summer. The September 2020, April 2021 Carberry Collegiate Student Council is President Matthew Saline, Vice President Anika Duguay, Secretaries Zara Dixon, Peyton Dixon, and Tennille Steen. Treasurer Jade, Nakonechny. Social Board, Cassie Crerar, Katie Mandel, and Emma Saley. Sports Board, Lexi Unraw, Social Media Photographer Maya Lozinski, Jason Mueller, and Paige Lozinski. Calendar Board, Becca Bird, Mallory Lockhart, Ava Hamilton, Jim Display, Cadence Laverne, Navich Witherspoon. Spirit Boosters are Dawson Jackson, McKenna Poitras, Dahlia Snaith, Jody Myers, Julius Muginshaw, and Ali Lavich. Congratulations to all your responsibilities this year. And Carberry has a fresh face on Carberry Council. The Carberry, this is by Gladwin Scott also, the town of Carberry has a new councillor as of September 8th. Matthew Salin, Carberry grade 11 student and second-year student and council president for the new Student Volunteer Council. This new role has been under discussion for some time and has proven valuable in some communities, such as Stonewall and Toulon. Portage is currently looking for its next volunteer, who must be a full-time student under 18 years of age. They have had a student counselor since 2014. Last year, Matthew had the top academic average of 96% in grade 10. He plays the saxophone in the school senior band program and was the recipient of the School Spirit Award. He works part-time at the East End and is a confident United Church volunteer. Currently, since he cannot play the saxophone due to COVID, Matthew is assigned to the Glockenspiel in the percussion section. In the council meetings, usually once a month, he receives an agenda, can participate in discussions, but does not get to vote. This is a 2-year term which ends after his grade 12 graduation. We wish Matthew continued success and a good learning experience as a volunteer counselor. Looking back over the years, Neepawa gets a new co-op gas station. This is by Casper Warehan. 110 years ago, on Thursday, October the 3rd, 1910, the news was Miss Maxine Pedlar, 21, brilliant graduate in English from the University of Manitoba and granddaughter of Mr. and Mrs. C.T. Pedlar, Neepawa, has taken up postgraduate studies in the University of Toronto. Miss Pedlar's foundation education was received in Neepawa Public Schools and Collegiate, where she gained honors in English and later had a particularly successful university career. She also studied at Riverbend and United College in Winnipeg. Miss Pedlar plans on making university teaching a career after she has completed her postgraduate course. Well, 100 years ago, Friday, October 1st, 1920, and this is a highlight of somebody's day, a guest who broke a tooth on a piece of crockery embedded in a piece of chocolate pie recovered $3,000 damages from the restaurateur in Hamilton. And 90 years ago, Friday, October the 3rd, that was a lot of money, $300. Wow. 90 years ago, Friday, October the 3rd, 1930, a perplexing prohibition question may face the courts at Gatesville, North Carolina, if plans of a Gates County farmer materialize. The farmer plans to plant a large patch of watermelons, and when they are matured and almost ripe, apply whiskey. The method consists of cutting a hole in the stem of each watermelon vine, inserting a twisted strand of cotton with one end in a bottle of whiskey. The watermelon is supposed to absorb the whiskey and acquire a kick and odor second to none. Business is good, and I contemplate applying for a patented trade name for my products. I'm changing the name from watermelons to whiskey melons, said the farmer. Well, that might be something to try in Manitoba. 80 years ago, Tuesday, October 1st, 1940. Anti-Greek agitation has been renewed by Italy. 70 years ago, October 5th, 1950. Last week, the press reported that A.B., ASS William Argyle Patterson Neepawa, had represented the RCN in the Guard of Honor at the funeral of Right Honorable William Lyon Mackenzie King. This was an inadvertent error and should have read Gerald Patterson, Argyle's brother, who is with the RCN in Ottawa. Argyle is in the battle area of Lorena on the cruiser HMCS Athabascan. Both men are the sons of Mr. and Mrs. W. J. Patterson, Rural Route to Neepawa. 60 years ago, October 4th, 1960. Neepawa Lions Club is undertaking to obtain a steam locomotive to serve as a museum piece in town, and Monday night obtained backing of the town council on the project. Neepawa is still the most beautiful town in Manitoba in the opinion of the judges of the Manitoba Good Roads Association. And I can give you some update on that one. We didn't get it because I don't see a steam locomotive anywhere in our community. 50 years ago, Thursday, October 1st, 1970. With the opening of their ultra-modern service station on the company property here, district residents have ample proof that the Neepawa Gladstone Cooperative Limited is really on the move. Located on the west side of Mountain Avenue, the new service station is a splendid addition to Neepawa's business section and a definite asset to the town. Old-time residents of Neepawa used to call the area where the spanking new service station is located the Gully, would never recognize that part of town. The concrete block one-story structure set back from the street measures 64 by 40 feet. 40 years ago, Thursday, October 2nd, 1980. Tulips from Holland were planted Tuesday morning at the town cenotaph by Mayor Gary McAlman, Legion President Charlie McCullough, and Neil Havenkamp from Amsterdam. Neepawa received 1,000 tulip bulbs in a surprise package from the government of Holland in thanks for those who served the armed forces during World War II. The tulips will also be planted at the Legion grounds at the Riverside Cemetery. Other participating in the ceremony were Councillor Chris Haywood, Gray Link, who was born in Holland, Ruby Campbell, President of the Legion Auxiliary, and Jack Johnson, Legion Secretary Treasurer. Manitoba Pool Elevator at Arden will have more than double its present storage capacity come next spring when the 70,000 bushel annex is expected to be completed. 30 years ago, October 2nd, 1990, Plumas. Tom Yando received the Les Davies Home Run Trophy for hitting 7 homers during this past season. 20 years ago, Monday, October 2nd, 2000. Amendments to the Farm Machinery and Equipment Act allowing implement dealers to carry competing lines of equipment took effect October 1st. Passage of the legislation introduced by Manitoba Agricultural Minister Roseanne Wochuk means a manufacturer can no longer terminate a dealer's agreement for selling competitive lines. And we are going to carry on with a story about Catherine Sage. The headline reads, "Return to work and overwhelming relief for Catherine Sage." Former Neepawa residents called back to WestJet after a leave of absence. Catherine Sage, originally of Neepawa, is a flight attendant with WestJet. And I know Catherine personally, so this is an interesting article by Kira Patterson, Neepawa Banner Press. After about 4.5 months of not working, Catherine Sage is now back at work with WestJet. Sage, who grew up in Neepawa and has been working out of Calgary as a flight attendant, took a voluntary 3-month leave when WestJet announced that they needed to lay off almost 7,000 employees to stay afloat during the pandemic. Her leave officially started on April 1st, and she was contacted by WestJet in June to let her know she'd be able to start work again soon. "I got an email on June 5th saying that I would be back at work," Sage explained. "It was just such an overwhelming relief because you know what was going to happen. And a 3-month leave of absence felt like a lifetime, so I was quite fortunate and I was over ecstatic about the fact that I got it back," she expressed. When she first took her leave, Sage noted that there was a lot of crying. And when she received the email telling her she was going back to work, she was crying again, but this time with happiness. Sage started back to work on August the 13th and has had regular hours so far. She explained that WestJet is continuing to have both domestic and international flights, and things have been fairly steady. Sage added that October is usually when it starts to get busy because school is back in session. People are finished with their holidays, but November and December get a little busier with snowbirds going south, people traveling for Christmas. "We'll see what happens this year, though," she said, adding that WestJet has hired back over 100 more of their staff for November for the potential busier season. While they are all still flying to their regular destinations, the frequency of flights departing is much lower right now. Because of fewer flights going to different destinations, Sage said that many of the flights that do go are very full. So when you go to work and you see a full flight, you think, "Oh my goodness, you know we're doing great. That is awesome." But then you think about it in reality, instead of having 8 flights going to Toronto in a day, you only have 2, she explained, but it still looks good to see a full plane. It's real comforting to see that. Because the flights that still run are filling up, there are precautions taken to make sure every trip is COVID safe. Initially, WestJet had a rule that middle seats had to be empty to help with physical distancing. But with other precautions in place, filling seats still complies with the International Air Transportation Association health and safety guidelines, so that restriction has been removed. WestJet has implemented HEPA filters to clean the air, barriers on seat backs, fogging planes with disinfectant once empty, and making masks mandatory. We want to make people feel comfortable. We want them to get flying again. We want them to realize that they're taking every step to keep those planes safe mechanically and also cleanliness, Sage expressed. I want people to know that we're just transporting people. We're not saying, oh, you have COVID, we'll transport you. We don't know who's sick, and the airports do everything they can to prevent this as well. While the airlines and airports are being very diligent with safety precautions, there are always those people who don't want to comply, and Sage has experienced that as well. I would say 98% of people are amazing. They know they have to wear masks, and that is the way it is now, and they just accept it. But it's like with everything else in the world, there'll be that 1 or 2% of people that just don't want to comply. Sage explained, we have to do a write-up when the passengers don't comply. And I've unfortunately had to send in 2 for people that were non-compliant with their mask wearing. She noted that WestJet is fairly strict with their mask policy because they want to make sure everyone feels safe. And if you don't want to wear your mask again, you shouldn't be flying. Some of her duties are a little different now, such as policing mask use rather than pushing a snack cart. However, Sage said we're still enjoying her job as much as she always has. It's still happy, cheery, wonderful, amazing WestJet, she expressed. I work with an amazing bunch of people on the plane, in the office, everywhere. And also the guests that fly are incredible. Okay. Bruise Brothers Bistro ready and waiting to open. And we have seen the dumpsters out front and lots of work going on. So the caption reads, photos by Kira Patterson. Above, the new dining room at Bruise Brothers is approximately twice the size of the old one. Seating is set up for COVID-19 capacity restrictions currently, but more tables will be added once restrictions are lifted. The new kitchen is through the hallway to the back of the photo. The dining room before renovations taken in March from the same angle. After nearly 4 months being closed for renovations, Bruise Brothers Bistro in Neepawa is ready to open. Currently, they are waiting on final permits to be approved so that they can have guests back in to dine. The hope is that the permits will come by the end of this week and they will be able to open early next week. See the full story and more photos next week. So we have the Neepawa fights back in thriller versus Wei-Wei-Sikapo by Aaron Devereaux, Neepawa Banner and Press. An amazing last-minute comeback by Neepawa in its first exhibition game of the new MJHL season fell just a little bit short, trailing 3-1 to the Wei-Wei-Sikapo Wolverines with less than a minute remaining in the third period of their game on Friday, September the 25th, at the Yellowhead Arena. Neepawa forwards Cody Gudnason and Bryce Krotner each scored to tie the game and send it into overtime. Gudnason scored with 42 seconds left in regulation, while Krotner tallied the equalizer with only 16 remaining on the clock. In the 5-minute overtime session, neither team scored, forcing a shootout which Wei-Wei-Sikapo would ultimately win. The Wolverines scored twice on 3 opportunities, while the Neepawa was only successful on 1 of its 3 chances. Conquered by Kings. Neepawa would next travel north to Dauphin on Sunday, September the 27th, to face the Kings. In that showdown, Dauphin continued their impressive preseason play with an 8-3 victory. The Kings scored just 1 goal in the first period, but would come out firing on all cylinders in the second with 3 goals. The first period goal came from Caden Ilott, while Owen Wareham and Grady Hobbs scored in the middle frame, with Hobbs scoring twice. In the third, Dauphin scored early and often, tallying 3 in the first 2 minutes of the period. The goals were from Kobe Morso, Austin Lamont, and Hobbs, who was able to complete the hat trick. For Neepawa, Ben Saunderson scored first at 2:18 for the third period. Graham Patrick followed that up with a pair of goals to make things a little more respectable. Neepawa will now close out their exhibition campaign on Friday, October 2nd, when they visit the Wayways Capital Wolverines. Game time is set for 7:30 p.m. As for the regular season, that will start for Neepawa on Friday, October 9th, when they host the Winkler Flyers at the Yellowhead Arena. Opening face-off for the home opener will be at 7:30 p.m. Dan Mazur, unimpressed with the federal throne speech. The MP not pleased with lofty commitments and lack of detail, by Aaron Devereaux, Neepawa Banner Press. Dan Mazur is our local member of parliament, and it says, Dan Mazur has heard it before from the Trudeau government, a laundry list of promises with no real plan to back it up. The most recent throne speech from the federal Liberals, in Mazur's opinion, was just more of the same. On Wednesday, September 23rd, Governor General Julie Payette gave the throne speech to a small group of senators and members of parliament. In the speech, the governing Liberals laid out their vision for the upcoming months, which includes significant spending on childcare, extended wage subsidies, and the creation of a national pharmacare program. It also included promises to create 1 million new jobs, plant 2 billion trees, and banning the use of single-use plastics in 2021. Programs aimed at helping women recover economically from the COVID-19 pandemic and a stricter set of standards for seniors' care and long-term care homes were also unveiled. This is not a time for austerity, Payette read from the speech. The Conservative Party's response to the speech was made by Deputy Leader and Portage Lisgar Marquette Candice Bergen. Bergen stated that in rebuttal that the speech lacked substance, offered no physical framework, and trampled on provincial jurisdiction. Dan Mazur serves as the MP for Dauphin Swan River Neepawa electoral district and echoed similar statements to that of Bergen. Mazur has stated that he plans to vote against the throne speech, having lost confidence in Trudeau's government. The speech was supposed to be an opportunity for the government to give Canadians confidence during the most uncertain time in our generation. Instead, it was a whole lot of vote buying and shallow promises, said Mazur, who attended the speech. Mazur added that while all these promises that were made are great on their own, the lack of details on how they'd be paid for was concerning. It's lots more promises, expensive promises, and meanwhile we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and they're not addressed the shortcomings of the first wave, said Mazur. There is no clear plan. Instead, it was just a lot of buzzwords. As well, Mazur was not fond of the reiteration of the previous promises made but not kept. The most obvious example of that indication Mazur cited was the pledge to plant 2 billion trees as part of the plan to get Canada to net zero emissions. He stated that commitment was made in the 2019 election campaign that has not seen any progress made to it. Another promise reiterated time and time again by the federal Liberals has been job growth. Mazur noted that makes their latest vow of 1 million new jobs ring hollow. Mazur added that he is already hearing disappointment from the constituents with the lack of attention to agriculture, forestry, national unity, or a plan to rein in government spending. Mazur said that they're also critical of the federal Liberals moving forward with its firearm bans, saying that the policies don't serve rural Manitoba very well. These firearm bans hamper legal gun owners, and it is just not helping the situation in regard to actually tracking the issues that are out there. It's really just an attack on law-abiding firearm owners, Mazur said. Mazur has returned to Ottawa for Parliament after months of shutdown. He stated to the Banner and Press that he will express his concerns on the throne speech and challenge the government on their lack of support for rural Canadians. So in the paper this week, we have a in loving memory to Walter and Lily Wilmot. Dad was born in July 27, 1921 and passed away October the 30th, 2004. Mom was born June 16, 1921 and passed away September 25th, 2019. There's a lovely picture of them up here in the corner, and it says, "Come, love, let us away. Come, love, let us away from here. Let us lay down this heavy load. And side by side, far from the town, drive some lovely country road. And wandering, watch the sun go down. The woods, the fields shall make us whole. The nightly pageantry above our little world keeps sweet and soul. Come, love, let us away from here." In our hearts always, Ron, Joyce, Nancy, and Wallace. There's a thank you notice to anyone who brought food, flowers, cards, sent emails, phone calls for me following my recent replacement hip surgery. Mark Watford. Well, sorry to hear that, Mark. We also have notices. Arden Hall capacity, 255. Park camping, sports facilities, curling ice, kitchen, and lounge. And you can book that at 204-368-2202. And Arden is approximately 10 miles east and 3 miles north of Neepawa. We also have a notice. Neepawa Banner Press offers full research and reprint services from our archives that go back to 1896. Additional copies of papers, $2 each, depending on availability. Reprint of a page and past copies, $2 per page. Archival research, $25 per hour with a $10 minimum. Individual photos on photo paper, $5 depending if we have a suitable original in our digital print or photo archives. There will be a yard sale at 325 Herbert Street in Glenella, October 3rd and 4th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wanted, reliable person for snow removal for Kinsman Court, Senior Center, 299 Davidson Street, Neepawa. Snow removal required by 9 a.m. If interested, call Joan at 204-841-1909. There's also a free piano to give away. Just come and pick it up at the Elks Manor. Call 476-2112. We have a for sale. Maryland's Crochet Corner has a large variety of jams, jellies, pickles, and relish for sale. Also taking orders for Christmas cakes and Christmas baking. And that is at 204-834-3951. Someone has a power tilt wheelchair. It reclines. Pride Quantum 6000Z 20-inch by 20-inch seat cushion with a tall ultra back adjuster, LG fixed headset, mounting bracket, auto style seat belt to interstate batteries in very good condition. Used in a personal care home, $3,250. The price has been reduced to $2,450. Reasonable offers expected. Phone Merle at 204-727-8521 or text at 204-724-9528. There are some for rents. There are apartments for rent in the Brymount apartment at 331 Mountain Avenue. Phone 204-841-2006. There is a for rent wanted a mature person to share an acreage in the country. Room for motorhome or camper. Call 431-729-3429. We have Turtle River School Division are hiring. Join our team. We are currently recruiting the following positions in all schools within the Turtle River School Division: Alonza Community School, Glenella School, Ecole Laurier, Grass River Colony School, McCreary School, Parkview Colony School, and St. Rose School. Full-time, part-time term positions: educational assistants, librarians, custodians, school bus drivers. Substitute positions for school teachers, educational assistants, custodians, and spare bus drivers. If you are interested in joining our team, please send your resume along with a cover letter indicating your intent to Bev Seismico, Superintendent of Turtle River School Division, Box 309, McCreary, Manitoba, R0J1B0. Well, that's just about sums up. We have a beautiful picture of bales of plenty. Farmers have been busy not only combining but also baling up feed for their livestock for the winter months. Pictured bales on fields located in the Little Saskatchewan River Valley near Highway 10 North, taken in August. And that photo was by John Drinkwater. We have numerous houses for sale in the community if you're looking to move. The Corona Hotel in Glenella is for sale. We also have a condo at the north end of Neepawa for sale, and numerous acreages and properties around the area. I think that pretty much brings our reading of the Banner Press to a close today. We do have programs listed, so there are the next week of local programs is in the paper this week. How are we doing, Jeremy? Have lots of opinions? Submit a letter to the Neepawa Banner and Press to get your thoughts published on this page for everyone to see. In person at 423 Mountain Avenue, Neepawa. By fax at 204-476-5073. Or by email, news@neepawabanner.com. There was a correction also from last week's. In last week's the Meet the Teachers section of the Neepawa Banner Press, the staff list with the Neepawa Middle School was from last school year. So here is the 2021 Neepawa Middle School staff list. Mrs. Tomanico, Ms. Mabon, Mrs. Boyle, Mr. Joy, Ms. Selwich, Ms. Freeman, Ms. Dudenhofer, Mrs. Croker, Ms. Reynolds, Mrs. Welpton, Mr. Cathcart, Mr. Rainey, Mrs. Heschuk, Mr. Ranka, Ms. Colby, Mrs. Vanell, Ms. Spencer, Mrs. Woods, Ms. Hart, Mrs. Kolbacki, Mr. Gaudet, Mr. Smith, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Martin, Mrs. Hollier, Ms. Perieski, Mrs. DeWitt, Mrs. Rogers, Ms. Unger, Mrs. Whitlaw, Ms. McKinnon, Mrs. Gullis, Ms. Schumann, Mrs. Ferguson, Mrs. DeRoche, Mrs. Falco, Mr. Magwood, Mr. Parrott, Mr. Patterson, Ms. Bone, and Mr. Mitchell. There's going to be a call for nominations at the Westman Communications Group. Completed nomination applications and any resolution must be received at Westman Communications Group in 1906 Park Avenue, Brandon, by 5 p.m. on Friday, October 16, 2020. Stanley Cup has area connections. Wrap it up, I'm being told. So, if you want to read the things that I've missed, which I didn't miss very much, you can pick up your Neepawa Banner Press at places around Neepawa, Manitoba. It'll be out there till they have a new paper next week. Thank you for being part of our Read the Banner Press the first week of October. Have a good week. See all you next week. Thanks.